I'm Ashton from the Crypto Coin Show, and today on Blockchain Interviews, we have back with us Peter Kris, co-founder of Gasp. Peter, welcome to the show, and it's been a while, but I know that you and your team have been working on a lot. Excited to dive into cross-chain DEXs, liquidity, what's going on in the space right now, and everything you and your team have been working on.
Hi, Ashton. It's great to be here again. It's quite a while, and we have some updates, so I'm very happy to share.
Definitely, the space is getting very busy right now, and I think there's a need for more liquidity and cross-chain interaction as well. Your team has been working on some of those solutions. Could you start our conversation off with more of a high level on what is Gasp? What are the problems to be solved in the industry?
Gasp is the first consolidated asset platform. And now, what do I mean by consolidated? Every industry is going through different phases, and currently crypto is very heterogeneous, meaning that you have so many solutions, you have so many chains and so many messaging, bridges, interoperability protocols, and it's really hard to keep up and, let's say, manage your portfolio. And if you want to manage your portfolio, you usually go to centralized exchange, right? You are at Binance or maybe Bybit. And that's where you are holding your inventory, your funds, and that's how you trade. But we like to push the industry forward. So that's why we came with Gasp, which is a single unified place that is connected to all the other blockchains. It can be connected to rollups or either to other layer ones, where people could have a single place where they can trade all the assets and manage their portfolio.
Mm. Yeah, it's a big problem because crypto was designed to be more non-custodial, decentralized, but because there's all these different blockchains, they don't always speak to each other natively, and a lot of users are sort of forced to use crypto centralized exchanges to have them manage everything in the back end. So with all of the different languages and technologies, different blockchains, different crypto assets, what's the solution that Gasp is building to make that a seamless experience so that you can trade from one asset to another without having to learn the intricacies of all of the underlying technology?
The power of Gasp is coming from us being a rollup. So we're something like a rollup on Ethereum, but simultaneously we are a rollup on all the other blockchains as well. We have came with a unique architecture that is something like an omni-chain rollup. And the great thing about this is that we have the connectivity and ability to connect to any blockchain, right? So currently, if you look at the landscape of crypto, let's talk about, let's say, two players. So you have Uniswap. Uniswap is awesome. We all love Uniswap. Uniswap is great for bootstrapping like initial pools for early projects. So the power of Uniswap is that it's permissionless and anyone can create any pool they like and people can trade it. But the problem of Uniswap is that the liquidity is still siloed, is isolated on the given blockchains where Uniswap resides, and there is not that much communication in between. So it's a bit problematic to unify everything. You have to jump from chain to chain to chain. Now, let's talk about, let's say, Thorchain. Thorchain, another great pioneering project from the past, and the great power of Thorchain is the connectivity, right? They can connect to multiple blockchains. You can trade Bitcoin there predominantly. But on the other hand, the problem of Thorchain is that they do not have that much permissionless listing. It's like you cannot just very easily list 1,000 pools on Thorchain. So we look at the space and we are combining the power of permissionless listing of Uniswap. So you can have 1,000 pools, you can have 5,000 pools on Gasp, and combining it with the connectivity of Thorchain, meaning being able to connect to any rollup or any other blockchain at the same time. We took those two, we took the best parts, we combined it into one, and we are releasing this next week. Another perk is that we are based on EigenLayer. We are thinking from the security first principle. So we wanted to be as much secure as possible. We looked at all the technology available on the market and we picked the parts that would guarantee us the biggest security possible. So all the liquidity on Gasp is secured by escape hatches. What does it mean? If people, or let's say the rollup, would go down completely for whatever reason, like some malfunction or failure, people can always trigger withdrawals. So all the liquidity, all the deposits on Gasp, they are inheriting the security of their respective origin chain. And when we put this together, there is a logical question like, okay, but how is the consensus, the finality, how is it actually secured? You know, the cross-chain swaps, because you have two layer ones, they don't trust each other. What is the solution? Usually what is the solution in terms of like bridges or maybe Thorchain is you sometimes rely on economic security of your own token. We wanted to be this as much secure as possible, so we decided to rather tap into the security of EigenLayer. So we're tapping into the restaked Ethereum, and that is the validation finalizer of all the operations on Gasp. And this solution is probably the most secure cross-chain solution right now that is in the space. And I can even say that we are the first cross-chain DEX based on EigenLayer. And we could be even seeing the first application in the EigenLayer ecosystem where people can very easily interact with, right? They can just type in the web page and just trade. And that is a very compelling thing that we are introducing just at the right time. And I believe there is a very big potential.
Wow, that's very interesting. And I want to dive into that EigenLayer a little bit more to understand it. From what I know about EigenLayer, the platform is mainly for staking and restaking Ethereum, and there's a huge amount of value locked in that. So when you say that it's secured by EigenLayer, does that actually mean that the value of those ethers are also protecting the protocol?
Exactly. You just said it absolutely correctly. People are restaking Ethereum. They're delegating that to AVS operators, and those AVS operators are checking and finalizing all the operations on Gasp. Mm-hmm. So in the Ethereum restakers can even earn rewards of Gasp from the pool that we will be sharing tokenomics very shortly.
Wow, that's really cool. I feel like that's really important, because obviously the security is of utmost importance to secure the assets, and to be able to tap into something that already has billions of, like a blockchain that has billions of dollars of security behind it. You're not starting from scratch. You're able to tap into, one of the most secure networks, barring like Bitcoin as the most secure blockchain network.
Definitely. Well, very shortly, I hopefully in 2025 we'll be adding Bitcoin trading as well, because our solution can connect even as a layer 2 on top of Bitcoin. So it's definitely one of the things in our road plan.
Wow. So with the liquidity aspect, obviously having a high amount of liquidity, low slippage, and then low fees is important when you're trying to move between different blockchains. And from what it looks like on Uniswap right now, if there's a Ethereum USD pool on Base Chain and on ZK Sync Chain, Linea Chain, none of those are tapping into each other, and it's like small fragmented pools that all have high costs. But if they were to be able to be pulled together through different chains, then that would obviously be much more efficient. So is that what Gasp is able to do, and how exactly does that work?
We cannot connect that much existing pools on rollups, even though we are working on a solution that would be somewhat as a messaging type of solution, where even the chains can communicate and potentially even connect all the pools that are sitting there. But in the first phase, which is now alpha launch, people need to first deposit the assets on the Gasp and then create pools or either trade. Essentially, when you think about it, the functionality is the same as centralized exchanges. Let's say if you want to go to Binance, you just need to do a deposit from Ethereum, then you trade, let's say for Sol on Solana, and then you make a withdrawal to Solana, right? And the very same flow is on Gasp. So you deposit assets, you trade them, and then you withdraw them wherever you want. But you can trade them in a gasless manner. There are no gas fees. Costs are fixed fees only, so there is a guaranteed cost for trading, which is the automated market maker price, which is 0.3%. And you can trade in a very fast and efficient manner.
With that, trading on Ethereum, people who have traded on Uniswap or other DEXs before, they know that especially when the market gets busy, the Ethereum transaction costs can be tens or hundreds, if that, of dollars. So if they're on Gasp, then there's no fee for the transaction fee. How does that work?
On Gasp, you don't pay gas because we are not a smart contract platform. All the EVM chains, they need to have gas because you need to have some sort of an auctioning mechanism, like where would you allocate the execution, where would you allocate the transactions, and essentially people are competing against each other who gets to be the first in a block. And that results in sometimes sky high prices of gas, which is then in return, let's say, making the profitability of trades much, much less. We don't need to employ this mechanism because we are application specific rollup, meaning the things you can do on Gasp is only exchange related. So that's providing liquidity, trading, voting and governance, and that's pretty much it. So we are super specialized on one use case, and that's why we can come up with much more efficient solution than other platforms.
So you mentioned the alpha is just launching now. What are the things that people can do upon the first launch? You mentioned obviously depositing assets and having TVL growing, and you said that it's permissionless, so you can have any amount of pools. So can people deposit any crypto assets in there, or is Gasp trying to get more, Ethereum or stablecoin into the platform initially? What are the first goals?
Actually, from the day one, even though it's an alpha launch, people can deposit any asset and create any pool that they would like from the connected chains. In the beginning, we are connected with Base, Arbitrum, and Ethereum Layer 1. This is the alpha phase. Now, we will be adding additional rollups as we progress along. Then we will be adding another Layer 1s as well. So the scope of assets that can be traded on Gasp will be growing over time, but we just want to be very cautious. So that's why we're launching only alpha launch right now, where mainnet will be at some point in the future. We need to test things properly. We want to be a really security first. So we want to test things properly. So that's why we're launching just alpha launch, but the people can trade any asset that they like.
That's really interesting to know. And with that initial choice for the alpha, obviously Ethereum is important. Arbitrum, I believe, to be one of the original, layer 2 rollups that is strong. And Base is much newer. They don't have a token yet, but they're supposedly coming out with one eventually. Is there a rationale behind those rollups being the first ones to test out?
We are community-based project. So we are listening to our users. We've been talking in our Discords for quite some time, which chains would be the best for starters. And the most common answer was Base or Ethereum Layer 1 or Arbitrum. So that was the choice. We listened to the community and we are connecting those chains.
That's really good. Obviously, community feedback is important. And you mentioned 3 primary functions, depositing and also governance with the community. How are they planning to also help shape where Gasp goes as it grows?
The best thing to contribute is on Discord right now. Very soon we will be launching a governance forum where we will be talking about which assets do we want to incentivize with liquidity mining, which chains do we want to connect next. So community can still affect like which rollup will be added as the third one. We can be adding all the chains reasonably quickly. So we even embrace community to help us with this decision making because we want to make the best product possible, and that is only when you are providing features and connections that people would love. So besides that, if you have the token, you can stake it because the token requires staking, and you can earn rewards even on top.
Mm-hmm. And with depositing your Ether or stable, if you're creating a pool, there's normally some kind of APYs that you're getting in return for adding liquidity into the pool. Does that just depend on supply and demand? And how do you incentivize users to deposit on Gasp versus Uniswap or any other DEXs?
I wouldn't like to disclose the proper numbers right now in terms of APY, but we will be sharing that very shortly in coming articles in the next 2 to 4 days. So, but there is a liquidity mining campaign. There is a staking pool in the tokenomics that will be distributing rewards. There will be airdrops, and they have been communicated in the community, but it won't be a single airdrop. So there will be more. So there are so many ways how someone can participate in Gasp, and I encourage everyone to do so.
That's very cool. And do you think that Gasp's model moving forward into 2025 and the years beyond, as DEX has become more prominent, is sort of the go-to model of whether it's Gasless, cross-chain? Should this be something that is like the status quo for decentralized trading?
Of course, I would love if this would be the status quo, and I think we are moving just exactly to that status quo. I think if you're looking at the market share of decentralized exchanges versus centralized exchanges, it is growing towards decentralized exchanges a lot, and we are seeing much more launches, which are native launches. For instance, like Hyperliquid, right? People could trade it only on Hyperliquid, and I think that was the smartest thing that Hyperliquid could do. And it worked really well, and we are in the similar category.
Mm. And what would you say to the majority of people that are on a centralized exchange? They still have yet to, for one reason or another, move to a DEX, whether it's just having to worry about your own funds or having to trade between a different blockchain. Do you think that Gasp could bring completely new users to the DEX side that were afraid to use a decentralized exchange before?
Of course, because, well, the user experience is matching the centralized exchanges. So this is exactly what they are used to on the traditional exchanges. And second of all, as a user, you have to understand that centralized exchanges are usually later in the life cycle of projects. So that means that if someone wants to be truly participating in a grassroots types of communities, you have to get on-chain. You have to get there. You have to install a wallet. You have to move your funds on the blockchain and start exploring various products. And this is where you can get even early access to all the early projects. And we've seen that even like recently with even Solana. Solana had a huge upsurge of tokens. And if you weren't on Solana, you would just not get the access to early community, right? So I think this is a very strong given trend for 2025, and we will see so much more growth in that area.
Mm-hmm. I agree that getting on chain and building a footprint is rewarding, and we've seen that through different airdrops and these layer twos coming out, like Base, for example, that they don't have a token yet, but there's expecting to be one. And some of these other layer twos have given 5-6 figures of people that actually tried out things early. And you mentioned there with the alpha, there's also airdrop campaign and other ways for incentivization for people to use the platform. They get rewarded. So is there any more information you can give about that on, hey, you're trying out something new, but it's a rewarding experience?
What I can tell that there will be a dashboard and sort of a competition for rewards. So if you participate early and you are active as a user and you are trading, it will fall into a criteria for future rewards. We've already communicated about the airdrop. So one, or let's say the first wave of airdrops will happen very soon after the launch. But there are planned more waves. So if someone joins us this early, I think people are in a great place.
Mm-hmm. That's good to know. And when I look at it, my two major setbacks of using a decentralized exchange as the primary trading platform is the Ethereum fees, which you seem to have solved, and trading between different chains, which you seem to have solved. So I think that this is something that I would love to see grow more going forward, and I'm excited to see the alpha being launched here and getting involved early on, and hopefully getting rewarded for it.
Let me add one thing, and that is one of the big differentiators from us is that our token, Gasp, is the actual utility token. So the network Gasp cannot work without the token, so we have to launch it both at the same time. And we have a strong utility, meaning that there is a staking required and locking of tokens. It serves a function of spam prevention, right? I do not want to get too technical here, but if you do not have some sort of a fee mechanism for very small transactions, someone could just very easily attack your network and spam it and essentially make the network malfunctioning. So everyone who trades and is trading below certain small amount of time, like value, let's say $5, you need to lock certain small amount of tokens. But this is a stronger requirement, and this is where the utility of the Gasp comes from. So the more trading there is happening on the blockchain, the more Gasp tokens need to be locked for a certain period of time. And it feels like a small distinction, but it's a really big thing because that makes the Gasp a true utility token.
No, that makes sense. And yeah, if you whenever something is free or gasless, then people can just trade back and forth and clog up the system. So there has to be some mechanism in there. I'm sure when Ethereum fees are $100, you're gonna be saving significant amounts. So I'm looking forward to checking it out. Peter, what is the best way to check it out and to get started? You mentioned the Discord and the alpha. How can I go there and test out the deposits and the trading?
The best thing is first visit our Twitter, then go to our webpage, gasp.xyz, and from there you can get into an app, which is now running on a testnet, but very soon it will link to the alpha product, and there you can test it very easily.
Sounds great. I'm going to leave those links in the show notes below as well. I really appreciate your insights into DEXs, cross-chain, the future of decentralized trading and how it should be done. Wishing you and your team all the best on the alpha and the further launches for Gasp, and would love to follow up with you in the near future, Peter.
Thank you very much, Ashton. It was great to be here again, and I would love to come again when we have reached certain other milestones so we can talk again about all the exciting things.
Let's do it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.